Good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. A little bit of a front-on view of Neil there. It's Tuesday, August the 5th, 2025. And another beautiful morning. It's been raining all night actually, but sometimes when it rains all night and the sun comes out, it just makes it even more picture perfect. Good night for Talking Boxing last night. Great to have everyone along. We've continued to get really good numbers and some really good feedback from everyone, so I really appreciate everyone that watches each week and the ones that join each week, and of course the ones that listen on Spotify as well. And not that many. Well, what I liked about it wasn't like sometimes the whole show sort of gets tied up in sort of one particular topic or one particular name or one particular fight, and it was good last night to have a whole different range of subjects to cover. Right from Nikita and Michael and Tim and all the Aussies, right up to all the Usyk and Canelo and all the rest of the news going on in world boxing at the moment. What have we got today? Let's go back to, on this day, to 1990, and this was the third fight between Vinny Pazienza and the late Greg Haugen. Now, again, we always talk about Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti, and yesterday I mentioned the Rafael Marquez and Israel Vasquez fights series as well. They had 4 fights. This one sort of gets a little bit forgotten about as well, and not necessarily because all 3 fights were just almost, just those wars like Ward and Gatti were, but it was the rivalry between the two and the hatred and the spite, the genuine spite between the two. Now, they first fought in 1987. I was going to say 85, but it was 1987. And it was in Providence, Rhode Island. It was Vinny Pazienza's hometown. So Greg Haugen, and he had no qualms whatsoever about going to Providence to fight Vinny Pazienza in front of, I think it was about 15,000 fans, and they hated Greg Haugen. I remember he got into the ring to the AC/DC song Bad Boy Boogie, and it was sort of pretty apt for him to get in there. And I remember they had his family watching from a bar or something, wherever he was from. I think he was from some outback sort of mining town or something. And when Vinny Pazienza got the decision, they gave the camera the bird, and it was pretty funny. But just a great fight, the first one, and a disputed fight. Now, I actually covered this fight in one of the series I did at one stage with What's Your Verdict. I went through a lot of the old fights that were really close and disputed and scored them myself. So check those out if you haven't already. And I did this fight, and I actually thought Greg Haugen won this fight. It was a 15-rounder, and I think I might have had it 9 rounds to 6 from memory for Greg Haugen. But Vinny Pazienza got the decision, which I didn't mind, to be honest, because Vinny Pazienza, I think if you watch his channel, you'll know that he was pretty much my all-time favourite international fighter. Used to love Vinny Pazienza. They then fought, I think it was a year later, and this time they fought on neutral soil in Atlantic City, and I think it was Atlantic City. Didn't actually check that, did I? I'm pretty sure it was Atlantic City, or was it this one? Doesn't actually say where. No, it doesn't actually say where the third fight was, but I'm pretty sure the second one was in Atlantic City. They might have both been, I can't remember. But anyway, the second fight, Greg Haugen won the fight definitively and really put to bed the first fight's decision, and won, as I said, a clear-cut decision to win back the title. Then they fought on this day in 1990 in the rubber match, and it didn't quite measure up to the first two, and sometimes that is the case unless it's Ward and Gatti. But this time Vinny Pazienza got the victory and made it 2-1 in his favour. And even to this day, and Greg Haugen's no longer with us, he passed away about a year ago, I think it was, and Vinny Pazienza still hasn't let the spitefulness subside, which is a little bit unusual and probably a little bit sad when you think about it. You can't let sort of all the the issues of the past sort of go by the wayside once one of the parties has actually passed away. And we've seen in the past Ali, Fraser and these types of ones where and they had a spiteful, I suppose, relationship, if you want to call it that as well, back in the day, but they had that mutual respect for each other. a little bit different for Ward and Gaddy because they had such a mutual respect for each other after 3 magnificent fights. There's no real spite there. It was just in-ring rivalry. But these two really hated each other. And as I said, it's a little bit sad that Vinny Pazienza, even with Greg Haugen now no longer with us, still carrying that hatred of Greg Haugen. But maybe something that a lot of the newer boxing fans don't sort of know much about, but if you haven't seen the trilogy, go back and check out, especially the first one, the Vinny Pazienza and Greg Haugen rivalry back in the 80s and in this case 1990. All right, on to some boxing news, and what have we got? I can't remember what I wrote down, to be honest. Oh yes, there's talks that Vergil Ortiz and Keith Thurman will fight in October, and also on that card will be Arnold Barboza and Frank Martin on a double header. I don't mind it. I did say last night that I think someone might have brought it up, or they might have even seen it and have brought it up, that this could be a possibility. And yes, look, I think it's a good fight for both guys. I think Vergil Ortiz is coming off that injury. Oscar De La Hoya said they wouldn't rush into probably a Boots Ennis fight or someone that dangerous. But Keith Thurman, I think, fits the bill. I mean, he's a faded sort of former champion. I know he looked good against Brock Jarvis, but let's be realistic about it. But, was he 36, 37 years of age? Not a big puncher. Obviously very skilled, but not a big puncher. I think Ortiz would probably welcome that fight. I think it's a good pick for him with someone that's got a big name, but in my opinion, I don't think has got a legitimate chance to beat Vergil Ortiz. And same as Thurman, he's got an opportunity against Vergil Ortiz. Not really the real title, it's the interim title, but if he does win that, of course, then he might be in line for a Fundora fight down the track or someone else. So and he's got to roll the dice very, very quickly, does Keith Thurman. So I don't mind the fight. The undercard, I'm not that stressed about Arnold Barboza versus Frank Martin. It's a little bit of a cherry on top, I suppose, isn't it? But I'm not sort of bursting with excitement today with the announcement that fight could take place. Good fight, don't get me wrong, but it's neither here nor there for me. But I don't mind the Vergil Ortiz Keith Thurman fight. I've never been a massive fan of Keith Thurman, but I sort of hope he gets another crack at a big fight because he is entertaining. He speaks so well. Good luck trying to out debate him in a build up to a fight because he's the master. I think that was what was good about Tim when he was going to fight him. When it all fell over for Tim when Keith pulled out, but Tim was pretty smart not to go with him in the build up to that fight. He just sort of let him go and didn't pretend to be something that he's not, and that's probably where Brock Jarvis fell down a little bit, didn't he? When he tried to actually go with Keith and made himself look pretty silly at certain stages. But yeah, not a bad fight. I don't mind it. A fight that I do mind is continued talks that Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua may get it on in the ring. Now, before you say stop talking about Jake Paul, hey, when it comes to his circus fights, yes, I'm with you. But this is, like it or not, if he fights Anthony Joshua, a legitimate fight. And I suppose we have to talk about it. Whether he has a chance or not, I think is ridiculous. I think that this is almost legalised bloody murder, isn't it, really, when you think about it? I don't see Jake Paul having any chance whatsoever. And Eddie Hearn actually said, look, it's a mismatch. We don't want the fight. Anthony Joshua still hasn't sort of started to get his head around the idea that it could be Jake Paul. But he said, end of the day, it's about money, it's about interest, it's about eyeballs on the event. And he said if they really want this, he's had talks with Jake Paul and his promoter, his co-promoter, whatever he is, I can't remember his name, of MVP. He said they've had talks and it's been progressing really, really nicely. And he said it's probably a 50-50 chance that they will fight in the ring. And as I said, I don't think Anthony Joshua's probably even started to even consider that, hang on, you actually want me to fight this guy. Because we thought the Francis Ngannou fight was bad. Oh, geez, this could be similar because you've got to remember, at least Ngannou was a big, big heavyweight. Jake Paul was eating himself up to a cruiserweight. How's he going to go up to a heavyweight and fight a guy that's, what is he, about 250, 260, something like that is Anthony Joshua? I don't like it, but at the end of the day, I do understand why they want to make the fight because at the end of the day, it's all about the coin and this fight will make plenty, especially if they do it in England. So that's the talk. There's also been talk with our old mate Jake Paul that it could be Alexander Usyk in the cage. Can you believe that? I'm not going to say I don't think it's a possibility, because these days anything can happen. When you're talking about Anthony Joshua fighting Jake Paul, well, I'm open to anything. I'm not going to say no. That's not going to happen anymore, because more weird things have happened when it comes with Turki Al-Sheikh involved. So who knows? There's also talk, speaking of Alexander Usyk, that he could fight Deontay Wilder. Now, I'm probably one of the ones that was like, you're kidding up. You're going to forego someone like Joseph Parker and fight Deontay Wilder. But the way I read it was that they're not going to diss Joseph Parker and not give him his opportunity. I think they're going to work, if Deontay Wilder can win another couple of fights, they're going to work him into Usyk's schedule. Now, this of course goes against the narrative of Alexander Usyk might actually be finished, and he's got one more fight, if any, and if he might actually retire and go do something else. So you just don't know, and there's so many different things coming out. I mean, everyone's got an opinion, haven't they? But there's talk that Wilder can maybe get another win up his sleeve, that we could see Usyk fight Wilder at some stage. And look, I've never been a big rat for Deontay Wilder. I just think he's probably been the most overhyped heavyweight in history, but he did have 10 title defences, and that's fine. But the thing with it all, you could imagine adding him to Usyk's resume, to have Fury twice, Joshua twice, Dubois twice, and then Deontay Wilder on there as well. It gets harder and harder to sort of bring down Alexander Usyk's resume, doesn't it? Although this one would have a heavy asterisk beside it, because Deontay Wilder, from what I saw in his last fight, who was never the most graceful guy and talented guy, in his last fight looked absolutely shocking. So I doubt that's going to happen. But again, when you say it's got no hope of happening, it just comes down to how much money the fight can make. And I suppose Usyk against Wilder would still be an attractive fight for a lot of the fight fans out there that would think that Wilder would have a chance because of that big right hand. I don't know. Hopefully sanity will prevail at some stage in these fight negotiations. Another thing, a blast from the past as far as names goes, Jake the Snake Rodriguez. Now, I'm not sure whether you remember, I'm sure you do if you're a Costa Tszyu fan. He's the guy that Costa Tszyu actually beat to win his first ever world title. And he was interviewed this week, and normally I wouldn't sort of bother with Jake. He's been gone a long time, but it was interesting. There was an article about Jake Rodriguez, the best I faced. And it was just interesting to get his point of view on all the big names now, Whittaker and Trinidad and Costa, of course. But even for our own Shannon Taylor as well. And the reason I bring it up is because Shannon Taylor and Costa actually get a mention in his interview about the best I faced. Now, where is it here? Best jab was Felix Trinidad, which is probably not surprising. He did have a really good jab. Best defence, Pernell Whittaker, of course, no surprises there. Best footwork, of course, with Whittaker as well. But he actually said best hand speed was Costa Tszyu. And he said Costa was actually deceptively fast, and he could throw 4 or 5 punch combinations really, really quickly with power. So that surprised me. But he had best hand speed. I would have thought it would have been Whittaker for sure, but he went for Costa. And the smartest fighter, this is the surprise, he went for Shannon Taylor. Says here, he didn't waste any punches. He'd wait for you to throw punches and then catch you. So that's got to be a real feather in the cap. And I know Jake Rodriguez is not exactly Oscar De La Hoya, I get that. But he's still a fighter, former world champion, who faced a lot of good fighters. And when he says that Shannon Taylor was the smartest fighter above Pernell Whittaker, Felix Trinidad and Costa Tszyu, it goes to show, that maybe Shannon was a better fighter than maybe a lot of people actually thought. So best puncher was not Tim Tszyu, Costa Tszyu, of course. He said he hurt me, a very hard puncher. Best boxing skills, Whittaker. Best overall, he said, was Pernell Whittaker, which is probably no surprise. But I thought that was pretty interesting that he had Shannon Taylor in there as the smartest fighter that he ever fought, and Costa Tszyu with the best hand speed of anyone that he ever fought. So I never saw Costa as that fast. I just thought it was more about timing, and he would pick the shot and just lower the boom. But you've got to ask the people that were actually in there with him, I suppose, and that's what they say. All right, one last thing I'm going to talk about today, again, because there's not a lot of stuff going on as far as in the ring at this stage. A lot of negotiations, a lot of things may be happening that we speak about. But I wanted to have a quick chat about something a little bit off topic, and that is, I get asked all the time and asked questions all the time about with boxing these days, some advice for young fighters, and different sort of things I would suggest and all these sorts of things. And I'm not a boxing trainer by any means, or a coach or anything like that. I'm more, I suppose, a consultant these days. But I thought I would actually just touch on a couple of things that I do get asked. And I do appreciate lots of people sending me messages or pulling me up at the pub or wherever it might be. I don't drink at the pub, by the way, when I'm working at the pub. Different things, and some advice on, or for young fighters coming up. And it's always a hard one because, and I've spoken to other fighters that have sort of been around the world level, whether it be amateur or pro, and they sort of have the same thing, and they don't really know how to answer a lot of these questions, but I'll see how I go. But the first thing for young fighters is a bit of advice is about with choosing their trainer. And it's always a hard one because in some of those smaller towns or whatever it might be, you haven't really got a choice. The one thing I would say to a young fighter is choose a trainer that hopefully has actually been in the ring themselves. Now I know it's easier said than done. You get a lot of trainers who just do it out of the goodness of the heart, and I appreciate that. But my answer would be just try and get someone that's had some ring experience and is in the mix with other trainers. So not one of these people that have just decided to open a gym and think they know everything, and they don't associate with other trainers to get knowledge and bounce things off, because it's all about knowledge as well. And I'd be a little bit nervous if I was with a trainer who hadn't really been in the ring or as I said, mixed with other trainers. I'm not saying they've got to have been a great fighter or represented Australia or won a title. I'm just talking about someone that's actually been in the game and actually been in the ring, who can actually show you and describe and everything about being in the ring and know what you're sort of going through. And as I said, more importantly, hopefully if they haven't been or not overly experienced, they have actually been around the gym, around other elite trainers, elite fighters, in an elite system. That's in an ideal world. But if you haven't got that luxury, that's fine. I would go through, the process with whoever's local in your town. But if you are serious about actually getting in the ring at some stage, I would seriously look at going to a gym somewhere. And I know it could include moving or traveling a long way. I don't know, but that would be my advice, is if you're actually going to get in the ring, it's one thing to just do boxing with anyone. Anyone can hold pads and do some fitness sessions and that sort of stuff. But if you are going to get in the ring, just be careful about who's in your corner, because it can literally make you or break you. So that's one bit of advice there. When it comes to the actual boxing training, this is probably the main thing I'm supposed to look at. It is, don't try and be someone that you're not. Okay, so what I mean by that is, we all watch Floyd Mayweather, we watch Canelo, we watch Crawford, we watch Pacquiao and all those types of fighters, and a lot of fighters try and be those fighters. Now, that would be my advice. Don't try and be one of those fighters. Take things away from those fighters, look at them and pick up little things they do, but don't try and be them. So what I'm saying is, you might look at someone like Mayweather with his defense. I would strongly advise doing the Philly shell though if I was you at a young age, because it's very, very hard to master, and only the very best fighters like Floyd Mayweather can do it. So that would be my advice. Scrap that. But you might look at Pacquiao with his footwork and his hand speed, his combinations. You look at Crawford, who's just good all round. You look at Canelo with his patience and the way he sets up his punches, all that sort of stuff. But just don't try and be them, because you're not. I hate to break it to you, but you're not Canelo Alvarez. Like, I was the same coming up. I used to watch the Vinny Pazienzas and Chavez's and Camachos and all those types of fighters, but I knew I could never be them. But I took things out of what they did to help maybe improve me as a fighter in some way. So that's probably the other thing. When it comes to also coaches as well, and I've probably fallen into this myself, is that don't expect, if you do go to a trainer that has been a notable fighter in the past, don't expect that they can just click their fingers and make you them. Now, I'm probably talking about experience here. A lot of fighters, they come and train, and they expect, just because they train with me, who went to the Olympic Games, that they think that just because they train under me, they're going to be me. And I just imagine what the likes of Jeff Fennick and these types of guys go through, and the Roy Jones Juniors and these guys that become trainers, because they can't just click the fingers and make you them. Just keep in mind, they'll give you tips. And that's probably another reason why I stopped being a trainer myself. And that's why I like sort of being more of a consultant, where I'll have a trainer say, hey, look, I've got a young kid or whatever it might be, and I just want you to work on some body punching or some footwork. Just check out his defense and little things like that, and you can give some input that way rather than being a trainer. Because it's also hard for the trainer if they've been somebody of note, because they can't make the fighter like them either, if that makes sense. So, and I sort of felt the same way. As you put all the things you go through, what I suppose what makes you a good fighter and achieve so much, the dedication and commitment and the discipline and the hard training and everything else. Sometimes the trainer, and I had this conversation with Danny Green actually, and asked why he didn't do it. He said, no, can't do it. I can't. It's so hard to squeeze out of the fighter what you put into it. And it made a lot of sense to me, and probably encouraged me, if anything, really to step away and be more of a consultant, because I sort of found the fighters I had couldn't match the commitment that I had and the discipline and everything else. And sounds like it's a theme with other fighters that become trainers as well. So so that probably goes both ways. But just as I said, if you're a fighter, if you go to someone that's got a name and has been there, just don't expect them to be able to make you them just by training with them for 6 months, because it's very, very tough to do both ways. And as I said, with the trainers as well. The other thing I would probably say to a young fighter is it's about don't take any notice of all the flashy training routines that you see your favourite fighters do. And probably Floyd Mayweather's probably the main culprit here, isn't he? With his flashy pad routines. Don't try and do that. My thing has always been, do the absolute basics over and over and over. Footwork every session, forward, back, left and right, just the basics. Then incorporate punches into it. Slow it down. Don't do it too quickly. Don't rush through it. Those guys have been probably boxing since they've been 6 or 7 years of age. They know it, so they can do it fast. Slow it down. Do it slow as you can. And concentrate on, as I said, the basics. Footwork every session. As boring as it is, forward, back, left and right. That's basic as it. And jabs and the straight punches. Then progress onto your uppercuts and hooks. Don't rush it and try and do it all at once. I know it's probably a lot to take in, but it's the basics that count. And whoever does the basics better, especially at a novice level, it's whoever does the basics better and is concentrated more on them, the fighters that are going to win. Because I've seen numerous fights between novices or juniors or whatever it might be, and it just comes down to who has the best schooling, who's done those basics more than the other guy, because there's so much nervous energy, and most of the time they just go out there and just flail the arms and legs everywhere, and it's just a mess because of the nerves and everything that come to the surface. But I always say, just go back to your jab, go back to your straight right hand, nice and basic, and be cool and calm, and you will win the fight. So that's probably what I say. Don't look at the Mayweather pad routines. Don't look at things like Canelo and Crawford and Tyson, all the greats used to do, because they've been doing it a long time and they've mastered it. You've got to start from the ground up, and I always reiterate it to whoever I talk to. Basics, 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 over and over and over again. That's how you improve. And the other one, probably the last one, is something that's really hard to teach people, and that is just discipline. And almost having OCD as far as you do things. And I've still got OCD to this day because of when I was training. It's like, well, unfortunately, you're going to make it in this sport, and probably a lot of sports as well. Your life has got to revolve around your sport, in this case boxing, not the other way around. And you've got to have that discipline and schedule to do what you have to do without hesitation. So for me, as an example, when I used to get up every morning at 6 o'clock, rain, hail or shine, to run, whether it was long distance or sprints or whatever it might have been. I just did it. And it never ever occurred to me, shit, it's raining or it's foggy or it's a little bit cold. Never occurred to me. It was just like, oh, well, it's Tuesday. Oh shit, it's raining, but whatever, I've still got to run. That's the mentality you got to have. Be on time to your training as well. Don't disrespect your trainers. If you've got to start at 5 o'clock, be there at 5 o'clock, and you've got to have that structure and not even hesitate to, am I going to do this or am I going to do that? Hey, it's Tuesday at 4 o'clock, it's weight session, let's go. And don't even stop for a second to think, oh, I'm a bit sore or whatever. I mean, obviously you can talk to your trainer about that, or coach, if that is the case, or there's soreness or injuries there. That's something you have to discuss to the side. But what I'm saying is, I'm not really feeling it today. I'll do it tomorrow. If you've got that mentality, I hate to say it, but you've already failed. So that's what it takes to, if you sort of wonder what it takes to get to the level, whether it be amateurs, pros, whatever it might be, and not just boxing, all sports, and probably everything in life, really, when you think about it. It's structure and it's discipline. And if you haven't got it, there's nothing we can do for you. It doesn't matter how many times I show you how to jab and hook and rip to the body. It doesn't matter, because if you haven't got the structure or discipline to put into practice and stick to the plan, then it's already over for you. One last thing, the other thing is to maintain the vision. When I was 10 years old, I wanted to go to the Olympic Games. I also wanted to be heavyweight champion of the world. I understand that didn't happen, but more realistically, it was World Championships, Commonwealth Games, Olympic Games, and I achieved all that, winning gold medals at international level. But it was always about setting that initial goal. It was always more so the Olympics. It was Olympic Games. Yes, I wanted a gold medal like everyone else, but unfortunately, when there's thousands of other kids who had the same dream, and they got there before me. But it's having that end goal and just realising that you're going to have lots of twists and turns and bends and ups and downs along the way. But as long as that mountain right in the distance still has the goal on top of it, doesn't matter which direction you go, and the roadblocks and everything else that come your way, the floods and or whatever might block the roads, you've still got to have that end goal in place. And even though I had a lot of disappointments and ups and downs along the journey, never ever wavered about seeing the Olympic Games as the pinnacle, and it was always in the distance, and I saw it every day when I was training, and when I didn't feel like training and I was a bit down and didn't think I was going to make it, it was still always there. So that's probably the other bit of advice, is just don't lose faith, keep the goal in the distance. Now, unfortunately, I have to break it to you that sometimes you don't reach the goal, but geez, if you don't have a goal there in the first place, well, again, you're just wasting your time, and if you've got nothing to aim for and to go for, then what exactly are we doing? So that's my few sort of points of advice I would give to young fighters that are coming up. And again, it's really hard to explain to some people exactly sort of what's on your mind, because sometimes it's just in you, and the drive is just in you. And one thing, again, you can't teach is drive. And what was the word I was going to say? Ambition. You can't teach that. You've either got it or you haven't. So while I can give advice on a few different things, if you're watching this and you are in that boat, you're the only one who can determine which direction you go with that drive and ambition. Because without it, doesn't matter how many hours you spend in the gym, unfortunately, you're not going to make it. So anyway, I hope that helps you out there, for all the people that continually ask me different bits of advice on coming up through the ranks. I know it's not perfect, and I know it's not for everyone. I know everyone's got a different path they walk, but that's just my outlook anyway. And it's probably the same outlook I've taken into life in general. No one's going to hand you anything. You have to work for it. You have to have, again, that goal, and you have to be prepared to put everything into it, because if you do it half-assed, you're going to get half-assed results and return. So that's my little sort of tidbits for the day. The world according to Lyndon on this day, on Tuesday, August 5th. So anyway, guys, hope you have a great day. If you've got any questions, throw them at me. Any topics you want me to cover, throw them at me as well, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, have a great day. We'll catch you tomorrow.